Good morning, everyone. I'm Sam at Stitch and Steel Homestead. We've been getting a lot of questions lately about colony raising rabbits and the logistics of that and what it looks like and how we run our setup here. So there's not a lot of good information out there in published sources like books, and there's a lot of people out there putting out their own opinions on things that are not always best practices that don't work so well. So we're going to talk you through how we run our colony. There are different ways, certainly. Some people make it work a little different than us, but we've been doing this for 3 years now, and this is what works great for us. So I hope it's helpful. So this is our main rabbit colony here. I'm going to apologize in advance for the chicken and goat noises in the background. I hope you can still hear me all right. So this is a 10 by 18 stall inside of our horse barn. And as you can see, because it's got a roof on it, the bedding and stuff doesn't get wet. We don't have some of the same challenges that people with an outdoor colony have. So let me walk you through some of the features here. First of all, we built this top door on the stall to keep our own barn cats out mostly. And then we built this little knee wall here that fits inside of the main door so that when we open this to feed and water them, they can't escape. I mean, if you left this door open long enough, yes, the rabbits are capable of getting out, but in 3 years of doing this, we've never had anybody jump it just kind of while we're doing chores and have it casually open for short periods of time. You'll notice that right inside of the door here, we've got a pallet with our feed and water set up on it. This is really helpful in the wintertime, especially when you don't want to be spending too much time outside, when you've got stuff to get done. You don't always have to go right into the colony, risk escapes, lug the bucket over the door and do all the gymnastics or whatever. I can stand right here outside the stall and fill up both and then just do a quick visual check on everybody and know that everything's okay. This right here is our hay bunker. As you can tell, it needs to be refilled right now. We've just about got it empty. So it's just 2x4 wire mesh on the sides and the bottom. And it's about maybe 6 inches off the ground there. So underneath, the little buns like to get there and pull down the hay from above, where some of the bigger rabbits like to sit on the side here and just pull it out through the sides. Hey, buddy. These are what our nest boxes look like. Oops. And we always have one for each mama in the colony plus one extra. So that way, if a doe's litter isn't quite finished using her nest box yet when she's ready to have the next litter, she just uses the available empty one. And those kits have an extra couple days of grace usually before they're kicked out to be on their own. What works great for our kits here who are aging out of their nest box is the fact that we've got structures like the pallet that the feed and water are on, the hay bunker, we've got these tires that we use, and we've got this old Christmas tree in here. And those all give them places to tuck underneath and feel safe. So here's another nest box we've got. And it looks like Miss Nebula is starting to think about having some babies in there. She's due just about any day now. And I see that she's been rearranging things somewhat, so that's good to see. So I just wanted to show you again our nest box placement. We've got one right here, and then a tire pile to break line of sight. One over in this back corner there. I don't know if you can see that. It's looking like it's going out of focus on me. Another tire pile to break line of sight, and a third nest box over here. All of our nest boxes are at least 9 feet apart and have a visual break between them, which lets the does be really clear about how much space they're defending around their nest boxes and just avoids potential conflict. Each doe will protect a space that's about 3 feet in every direction from the entrance to her nest box. So when you measure it out, even though this is a 10-foot span across the back here, by the time you measure out 3 feet away from this nest box here, you're getting relatively near the edge of that tire pile anyways. So then she's kind of got that little corner that's all hers, and none of the, it's not set up where another doe has to move through it. She's kind of got that space for herself, and nobody else has any reason to come into it. And the same with this little corner over here. You know, if they choose to be friendly and social and they choose to all hang out together, that's different. But she can forcefully say, hey, nobody come here into my little corner, right? And then nobody has a reason to. It's not like she's keeping anyone from accessing their feed or water or accessing, you know, space to move around and play and stretch or accessing hay or anything like that. She's just strictly got it so she can say, this is my space for me and my babies, and no one's got a reason to go there but her. And this third box here is the same as well. Now, whoever's nesting there, oops, going fuzzy on me. I keep pointing with my finger and it changes the focus. So whoever's nesting in this box here might have more interlopers trying to come down this kind of alleyway right here. But if she decides to be particularly defensive and say, no, thank you, I don't want you there, the other rabbits still have an alley to come down on this side. So again, everybody's got access to their food and water without encroaching on anybody else's territory. And that's really important. It's not just space that makes your colony work or not work, it's the layout. In our colony, the rule of thumb that we use for figuring out stocking density is 50 square feet for every doe plus her litters up to the age of 12 weeks, and 20 square feet for the buck. So at 180 square feet here, technically we can have 3 rabbits in this space, 3 breeding does in this space plus the buck. And what we found is that sometimes that is even just a little bit squishy. Sometimes when we've got, you know, big litters happening and they're all kind of maturing at about the same age, especially if does are delivering within a week of each other. Now we've got a lot of adult-sized bodies all sharing this space and it gets a little bit tight. And that's when we start to see problems with things like coccidiosis. We see more stress displayed in the rabbits. We see more injuries from fighting, and that's no good. When we have 3 does in this space, we always have a backup plan of somewhere that we can move some of the grow-outs if we need to, if it becomes a concern. Currently, we have 2 does in the space, and that's just because we trialed another breeder this year and it didn't work out for us. But I'm not in a big rush to replace her either, because even 2 does, kept colony style, will produce a lot more rabbits than 3 does who are being cage bred. People generally think they need to leave a big, long gap between litters when they're breeding in cages. You know, they have very human ideas about recovery time and giving the doe a break and things like that. Rabbits are bred to breed like rabbits. That is the way they are made. That's the way they do it in the wild. Every doe will seek out the buck herself and conceive again on the day that she delivers a litter if she's given access to the buck. This isn't a problem. You know, it doesn't sound great. I certainly wouldn't want to be bred back the day I gave birth. But for the rabbits, it works, and it's what comes naturally to them. Unless we're seeing a lot of fighting and trouble in our colony, we tend to leave the kits all together until our butcher age, which is 12 weeks. 12 weeks works well for us because it's at about the point where the feed efficiency starts going down. So you're feeding them more and more and more, and they are putting on less weight for the amount of feed that they're taking in. So 12 weeks is about the spot where that stops being a profitable conversion rate. It yields us a carcass that we're happy with at about 2.5 to 3 pounds right now. My goal is to get to where we can have a consistent 2+ pound carcass at 10 weeks, but we're not quite there yet with our breeding program. If we go much beyond 12 weeks, we run the risk of does getting bred by their siblings and father, which isn't a terrible thing, except that, you know, it's kind of sad to send a doe to be processed and find out she's got a big old litter in her belly. So we try to avoid that happening. Also at around that age, the males start becoming sexually active, and that means they start fighting. and they'll take on their dad. They get in scraps with each other. We see a lot of injuries crop up if we wait beyond 12 weeks to cull a litter. Nebula, our black doe right now in the colony, she got bred by her brothers right at 12 weeks. We decided to keep her back as one of our breeding does, and she surprised us with a litter at 16 weeks. So even though typically in our colony our does don't breed until they're 6 or 7 months, certainly it can happen. So that's why we're really vigilant about culling at 12 weeks. If we chose to keep them longer, people like to see 16-week-old kits or older if they're keeping the pelts a lot of times, because the pelt is thicker and stronger. And what we've found then is they would need a different kind of infrastructure. They would need to be separated, girls and boys. Maybe the boys would even need to be separated. We would need to get into cages, and then you're looking at multiple feeds per day. You know, multiple water dishes, multiple drink containers that need to be thawed out or whatever. And that's just not a system we're happy with. We don't like the segregation. Rabbits are meant to be very social animals. And the way we keep them, they get to express the full range of social behaviors that are natural for a rabbit. They get to run, they get to jump, they get to do binkies, they get to socially groom. You know, the fathers are amazing with the kits. They snuggle up to them and take care of them. The does get to have all those territorial instincts realized, and I think that it's important when we are taking animals out of their element and asking them to do a job for us that we still honor what's natural to them and what is their biological imperative, and let them live lives that are as full and dynamic and species appropriate as we can. So that's kind of a premise in a lot of what we do here, but in the rabbits, I think we nail it pretty well.